All right. Well, welcome, guys, to our April 19th Zoom meeting of the Rotary E-Club of Southeast USA and Caribbean. And I am just going to go right into it and immediately pass the platform over to Will, who is going to introduce our speaker.
Yes, let me say that hopefully there'll be a couple other people that'll join us. The turnout is generally better than this on our first week of the month, but we tried to make this specifically easy for our international folks to join us. So anyway, it is with great pleasure that I introduce my good friend and long-term Navy buddy, Dr. Michael F. Leban, who's a Navy commander, retired. Tell you just a little bit about Mike. He has a BA with honors from the State University of New York in history. He was the top history major upon graduation. He has a doctorate of law from the Duke University Law School. Of course, he was a commander in the U.S. Navy, and he had a ship tour in Vietnam. That does not mean somebody gave him a tour of a ship in Vietnam. That means that he was in Vietnam for a year. He started off his law experience as a clerk in Virginia, the Eastern District U.S. Court. He became a partner with a large law firm in Norfolk, Virginia. He was also president of a design and manufacturing company. He is now the senior partner of Leban and Associates, general practice law. And he is an adjunct professor at Old Dominion University. His areas of professional expertise are advising and consulting small and medium-sized businesses on a variety of issues, drafting and reviewing contracts, documents, negotiations, risk analysis, which is important, immigration law, which he spends a lot of time on, and civil and commercial litigation. So without further ado, Dr. Leban, I will turn things over to you.
Well, thanks, Will. Let me just say that people that know you will agree with me that you and your bride are two of the neatest people I know. I love you both dearly, and I'm glad to be whatever kind of assistance I can be. Just to elaborate on our naval background, I will tell everybody that Will and I, you know this, Will, we were the three amigos. It was you, me, and John Paul Jones, I think, when we were on active duty. So whatever happened to JPJ, Will? We kind of lost touch with him, right?
I don't know, ever since they got rid of sales.
Yeah. Okay, you asked me to talk a little bit about immigration law, which is right now and has been for maybe the last 15 years the bulk of my practice, and I'm happy to do that. I will make these couple of observations, and then I'll talk a little bit about the structure of immigration law, and then anybody who has any questions, I'll be delighted to answer them. Will and Alicia asked me to personalize this, and that's what I'll do. The first observation I make is that immigration law is preposterously difficult. It is probably the most complicated area of the law. It's difficult to master because there are statutes, there are regulations dealing with the statutes, there are different bureaucracies in the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security. There are court decisions, U.S. district courts and the circuit courts, the Supreme Court. Administratively, there's the Board of Immigration Appeals and the Administrative Appeals Office. The point is, honestly, I spend an hour a day, just trying to stay current in what's happening in uh, this field of practice. And there's damn few areas of the law that you need to do that on a daily basis, right? If you're going to chase ambulances, I mean, once you figure out how to do that, you pretty much have your practice down. That you can't do that in this area of the law. Secondly, from my own personal perspective, immigration law is utterly schizophrenic. Because on the one hand, you have to recognize, any reasonable person has to recognize that we can't allow everybody to come to the United States, because the United States is a better place to live than wherever the hell they're from, right? But on the other hand, so that's sort of the intellectual, irreducible bottom line. We cannot have open borders. We have to have laws that control who's coming into our country. On the other hand, I spend an inordinate amount of time helping people who happen to be sitting in my conference room downstairs in my office. And there's no abstraction to me on a daily basis. These are people that I see, that I talk to, that I try to help. And I will tell you that I am very honest with that. I tell my clients right from the get-go, I don't bullshit anybody. I give you the good news, I give you the bad news. And if there is no good news, that is, if there's no way that I can help them, I see immigration law almost graphically. I see all these little cubby holes, and the cubby hole is a safe place. If a client comes in and he fits into the cubby hole, good things will happen to him. There's an immigration benefit inside that box. But sometimes they're just a snooch outside the box. So that's our job, is to pound them in to get the evidence, if such exists, and get them into a place where they could have a benefit. So which leads me to the third point, and that is that this is a very stressful way to make a buck. I should say, if you want to make a buck, immigration law is not for you. Go do something else, right? It's very stressful because there's so much at stake. I was a hotshot litigator for years and years with a big firm, and we litigated, and I was good at it. We litigated big ticket items, and we won. I would say we won more than we lost. But if we lost, money changed hands, right? Property changed hands. I didn't do any criminal work, so nobody was going to the gas chamber, but we were dealing with stuff. But when you work in the immigration field, you're dealing with families, you're dealing with lives. And the as I get older, and I am getting older, Will and Alicia are not, but I am, this becomes a burden that's very difficult, or more difficult on a daily basis for me to handle. Everybody that I see, almost everybody that I see, is somehow structured with a family. So I was telling Will about a case. I'll give you just some examples. A fellow from El Salvador was here illegally, meaning he was here without papers. He had a wife. She came with him, and she was here without papers. and they had while they were here, they had two little boys. The I fell in love with these kids. And they were U.S. citizens, by the way. So the fact that their parents were here without status doesn't alter the fact that if you were born here under the 14th Amendment, you are a U.S. citizen. In this case, these two boys were just delicious. They were beautiful, smart, clean, you know. Anyway, so Dad's driving down the street in Virginia Beach one night, and the light on his license plate at the back of his car was out, and so the cop stops him to advise him that his light is out, and then subsequently asks for his papers, and that light bulb, that $1.50 light bulb, right, was the P that rolls down the hill and starts an avalanche. And so he was ultimately removed. He was taken into custody, and we tried everything we could, and ultimately he was removed. So on an emotional level, I can ask the question, you know, are we a safer place? Is America a better place if we remove this guy who's living with here without status, but but he's living here, he's working, he's buying stuff at Costco, he's spending money, and he's raising two beautiful children who are U.S. citizens who are now without their father. So that's a difficult case. I'll tell you one other anecdote. I had this lady. She came as a J1, which is a status that college kids can come and spend time working here in the United States over the summer, and the status gives them an opportunity to travel, and then you have to go back. But she didn't go back, and she was from Russia, and she wanted to stay here, and she entered into a bogus marriage, right? To get a green card. Green card is lawful permanent resident. To get a green card based upon marriage to a U.S. citizen. The kid was in the Navy at the time here locally, and but they never filed anything. She then actually falls in love with some guy. She divorces the bogus husband, right? She marries the legitimate husband, and then files. I didn't handle that part of it. She then files for a lawful permanent resident green card based upon a legitimate marriage. Well, it turns out that the Navy found out that about the first marriage, right? And they denied the second marriage and put her into removal. Removal is the current term of art for deportation. But here's the thing that I think about this on a regular basis. They had twins, two little twin girls, and I represented her and fought maybe 2 years trying to keep her into the United States. And I think these are two little blonde, beautiful little girls, twin girls. And I think they took their first steps in my office. I swear to God, I do, right? That's how close I was attached to them. And but ultimately we failed. We went up to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals and we lost. And after that is the Supreme Court, and that's a non-starter. So now she's from a rural town in the steppes of Russia, right? And she has to make a decision. What is she going to do? This is a real Sophie's Choice, if any of you recall the Sophie's Choice movie, right? Her choice was, do I leave my beautiful little daughters here in the States so they can grow up as citizens with dad, or do I take my beautiful daughters back to, the steppes of Russia, and whatever will happen to them will happen to them. And oh, by the way, my husband's not going back to Russia with me. So the choice is, do I stay? Do I leave the kids with their dad, or do I take the kids and leave my husband? Now you think about that. If or you think about that as a way to frame some of the debate about immigration. It's not everybody that's in the system is not smuggling drugs and whatever the anti-immigrant slogan du jour is. These are people, and they have a story, and they contribute. And even if they're here without papers, they're buying gas. They're eating at McDonald's, and so they are doing something for America at every level. I will say this: I've represented people from the lowest level. I've represented a couple of doctors. I represented a college professor. So it's not just a guy that you think this some Latino is mowing the lawn, and across the street from you. No. It's at every level, and there's all sorts of stories about why or how people get into the deportation situation. I was thinking about this the other day. I had a fella. He was a Latino. I don't even remember where he was from. He had been in the country 40 years. Listen, 40 years, right? And he had gotten his green card, lawful permanent resident. Green card and LPR is synonymous. So he wanted to apply for his citizenship, hadn't done it in 30 years, right? But he decided he wanted to apply for citizenship. Come to find out that when he was a teenager in New York, he had a drug conviction, right? As a teenager. And he was working here in the shipyard in our area forever. We applied for him to get his naturalization, right? They do a background check, they find this drug conviction, and they put him into deportation. What do we think about that? I mean, anyway, these are stories. So I can go on and on because I have all those stories. But let me just how much time do I have? Are we okay with time?
Oh yeah, we're fine.
Okay. How do you get some kind of legal status under the current law? One way to do it is through family affiliation. Are you a married son and daughter of a U.S. citizen, or spouses of lawful permanent residents? And there are different categories of that. The immigration law forever was predicated upon family unification, and if you are eligible for family, right, under the family unification, that's probably the easiest path to a green card. There's only 226,000 green cards given to families every year. So think about that, 226,000 for the year. So if you, and what the government does is it looks at different areas of the world that where you're coming from. So if you're from China or India or Mexico or the Philippines, China, India, Mexico, the Philippines, you have a separate set of cutoff dates, right? And then there's the whole rest of the world. So as an example, if you are the brother or sister, listen, the brother or sister of a Filipino who happens to be in the United States as a citizen, if you applied, your application will become current if you applied in April of 2002. If you're from Mexico, you would be current if you're the brother or sister of a U.S. citizen living in Mexico. You would be current if you applied by July 22nd, 1998. So much for the family unification. You know, it looks good on paper. There was a claim of you know, in the last administration, there's something called chain migration. That's well, I want to say it's total bullshit, but I preface that remark by saying that's a legal term. That's a Latin term. The reality is that there is no chain migration. You can, as somebody that has lawful status in the United States, as whether or not they're a citizen or they are themselves a lawful permanent resident, right? They can bring, look graphically, they can bring parents, they can bring children, they can bring spouses, they can bring brothers and sisters. But and that's the, you know, that's the nuclear family, right? But even with the nuclear family, depending upon where they're from, it could be forever, to years and years. But the point is, it's not grandparents, it's not cousins, it's not Uncle Gus, it's not that extended. All right, so there's family. An umbrella to get lawful status. There are employment avenues. The issue with employment is, and I agree with this actually, is if you have somebody that wants to come and work here with a green card, not a temporary H-1B, but a green card, right? Then we have to go to the Department of Labor when you in the application process to make sure that there's not somebody already in the United States that can do that job. So to bring people in on an employment basis directly to a green card is very difficult. If we were thinking about coming up with a system to deal with people who want to come and work in the United States, that's the system that we would have. We can't import workers from anywhere, regardless of skills. If we have workers here that have those skills and may be unemployed or underemployed. There's everybody might be aware of DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals. To me, this is a no-brainer. These are kids that basically came across from wherever they came, stayed here, and grew up as American kids, and don't have any background by and large to their home country. Even as heartfelt as the DACA kids are, it's very difficult to get DACA, right? Because you have to be in school, right? You have to have completed your education, and you have to have a clean criminal record. So these 650,000, however many, I see numbers all across the board, those kids are need some issues, so need some help. What else? Asylum. This is the most controversial uh, uh, um, area of the law, and this is what is causing problems at the southern border. There's only 5 ways you can legitimately come up with a basis for asylum. A person needs to have been persecuted by the government in the home country, right? Based upon political activity, race, national origin, religion, or particular social group, which I'll talk about in a minute. So it's not open-ended. You have to, and these things, political activity and race and religion, these are American values that we value. And America is part of a variety of treaties, international treaties dealing with asylum and refugees, and we have plenty of laws on the books. The issue with asylum is before anybody can apply for asylum, they have to physically be in the United States. So you can't live in Albania and being persecuted for your religion and apply for asylum over there. Doesn't work. You have to be physically in the United States. I have plenty of asylum stories. Are we doing our time? I don't want to step on any toes here. We good?
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
so
good. Few more minutes.
what?
Few more minutes. You're good. Then we'll
Okay.
open up for questions.
Okay, so I've handled a couple of political asylum cases. I had a guy and successfully, by the way, thank God, had a guy from Honduras who was working for one of the political parties, and the Nationalist Party that was in power kept beating him up, and we documented with medical reports and police reports. And so that was political activity. I had a lady from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. She and her husband were active politically. DRC is a dictatorship, and they killed her husband. And she managed to come to the States, and I helped her, and that was sufficient. Those facts were sufficient to get her asylum. On race, I had a kid who was Russian, and his mother was Russian. Went to, I can't remember, Nigeria or someplace. Married a black guy, and he was the offspring, and then she left the husband and went back to Russia, and took her son, and he had light skin, but he had very Negroid features, and he was always getting beat up. He was getting beat up there. So we were able on the race basis, because it turns out Russia is quite a racist country in its own right. How about national origin? I had a kid who, after it was from Afghanistan, and his after the Russians withdrew, across on the Russian border, the Russian-Afghan border, a lot of Afghanis went to live because things were not good in Afghanistan. In any event, there was a little Afghan community in Russia, and Russians didn't like the Afghans, right, because of their experience in the war, and so they would come in and periodically commit a pogrom against them. And this kid managed to come to the United States, and we can document the horror that it was inflicted in by the Russians on his community. So I've had religious cases in China, for example. China only allows 4 or 5 of the major religions, and this guy was in. I liked him. He was a neat guy, but he was in some kind of oddball Christian religion, of which there were only 17 people in the world. I'm exaggerating, but the point is he couldn't exercise his religion in China, and he managed to get here, and we applied for him and got him asylum. And so far as what our former president did in the asylum field, what he did is they changed through regulations of the 2 attorney generals that he had, and some Board of Immigration Appeals cases. They changed the definitions of what constitutes a group for asylum purposes. And what had been, as an example of violence against women, Trump erased that, and gang cases, of which the Northern Triangle, Honduras and Guatemala and Salvador and so forth, gangs, they are everywhere. So we've had a couple of cases where moms have brought young teenage boys to the United States, where mom has said, and girls, and I would say this too. I could recall a case where the teenage girl, she had to be, a sexual toy to the gang, and mom didn't want it, so she brought him to the States. And I've had a couple of cases where the boys, mom didn't want the boys to be involved with gangs, and they've come to the United States. And those cases are still in litigation, actually, because of what the previous president tried to do. So what else would you like me to, how am I doing?
You're good. Why don't we go ahead and open it up for questions?
Mike, I have a quick question. You mentioned to me a case where you had brought the client before a judge, and the judge revealed some additional transgressions. Can you share that? That's a little humor involved in that.
That's kind of funny. So before I was practiced immigration law, I was a litigator. So I spent a lot of time in court. I'm very comfortable in court. And as I get older, I'm at least as old and sometimes older than the judges. So I'm very relaxed, and hopefully you can see, I make my points through humor. But anyway, I thought my client had only been deported once, and he had returned, and so the government lawyer, the DHS lawyer, says no, he hasn't been deported. He's been deported 5 times. So I said, well, let me see that, and she hands me his rap sheet, and I'm looking at it, and so the judge says, Mr. Leban, do you object? I said, of course I object, Your Honor. He said, what's the basis of your objection? I said, I can't think of a good basis, but there's nothing in here that's helping my client. So, I say I do the best I can with what the facts of the case are. But if your client has been deported 5 times and you're number 6, it's not likely that that you're going to be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and indeed we weren't able to. So what else? It's a complicated area of the law, and it's all about people, and it's all about families, and it's politicized in a way that is just distorts really some of the fundamental issues involving immigration. And I think it's fair to say that we really are a country of immigrants, and you know, the the demographics of America in the next half century is not going to be what we look like in the last half century, I think. And so the sooner we come to terms with that intellectually and maybe emotionally, right? And and orient our laws in a way that we can allow people who should be here to come in and and enjoy the American experience. And then I will add this, that there are people, honestly, there are people that have been here 10 years and 20 years and 30 years without papers, without status. Those and if they were bank robbers and muggers and rapists and stuff, they would be gone already. So these are people that have been here and they're just living here. They're raising families, the kids are going to school, they're working. They don't sleep as well as you and I sleep, right? Because they know that in a twinkling, they can be stopped for a light that's out, you know, a $5 light on their car, or they don't go to emergency rooms, right? Because they're going to, somebody might ask them for something, and they're not robbing banks, because any kind of brush with the criminal justice system is a trip back to where they came from. So you're just here. Those people have to be accounted for as well. So.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
Mike, I've got another real quickie for you. You and I both served on the USS Charleston, and you were involved in an interesting case related to that ship on which we both served. Can you very briefly speak
You
to
mean
that?
the Francis Marion,
I'm sorry, Francis Marion. Yeah,
the criminal
collision.
case?
Yeah,
Oh, well, this is, yeah, you have a great memory. So we were in the reserve crew of this Gator freighter, this Navy freighter, essentially, and we were going to go down to Guantanamo Bay to do 2 weeks of training. Well, I had just finished my clerkship with a federal district judge, which is the greatest job you can possibly have, because, you know, nobody screws with a district judge. And as a group, I would say this, as a group of individuals, mostly white men still, even today, there's nobody has more power than a federal district judge, because when they snap their fingers, things happen. Anyway, so my judge called me up, and he didn't know that I was going down to Gitmo, and he said, so I'm going to appoint you to defend some guy that's charged with attempted murder. I said, what? He said, no, go do it. So my ship went down, right? Our ship went down, and I got off for the day, which everybody hated me for, because you were out humping and I was ashore. And I interviewed this guy. He was a contract worker from Haiti, as I recall, and supposedly he was on a bus, and he had a knife of some kind and scared one of the female sailors. And the reason why the case came to Norfolk is because Norfolk had jurisdiction over Guantanamo Bay. Anyway, they bring this poor bastard up here. It was winter time, and this guy is sitting in jail, freezing to death. And so the only time I've been practicing law 40, how many years? 44 years. The only time I ever sort of went out of my way to talk to a judge was in this one case, because I knew the judge. I had just worked for him for a year, 3 months or 4 months before. So what I did was I called the Haitian embassy, and I got worked out that they were going to take him from Norfolk and take him right down back to Haiti, and and his punishment, he didn't hurt anybody, and he would be excluded as a contract worker back in Guantanamo, and he was freezing to death in the Portsmouth jail because they didn't like this guy, so they gave him a short sleeve cotton shirt, and he walked around, with a blanket on. I remember. So good for you, Commander Miller, that you remember that story. That was quite an interesting case for me. What else can we talk about?
Mike, you
Question.
mentioned that, oh,
Okay.
sorry. The past administration had
Yep.
put in place some new regulations. What is the current administration doing?
Well, a couple of things. If you follow immigration law in the popular press, that's the tip of the iceberg. The Muslim ban, the stuff in the border. What they did more insidiously was by regulations. They changed regulations and through opinions of the Board of Immigration Appeals and the AO and so forth. They eviscerated 30 years of law, and they did it very quickly. And they appointed immigration judges that come out of the government prosecution side. So these are individuals who prosecuted immigration cases, and so now they're sitting on the bench in an immigration court. Does anybody see any potential problem if you've been prosecuting these people for 10 or 15 years, and now you're going to sit in judgment of them? So that's a long answer to a short question. It's going to take time, and there was so much that was done to alter from my perspective, in a negative way, the previous immigration practice, that it's not gonna change tomorrow. So Trump concentrated on the wall and the caravans and all that kind of stuff. But think about think about this, Alicia. Why do people from the Northern Triangle, the Central America, why are they coming here? Because the countries were poor to begin with, because they've been devastated by 2 hurricanes right in a row, because there's crime coming out the ears, because the corruption on the part of the government and the police and the army and so forth makes just kind of living there pretty awful. And it's not, from what I read, and I read a lot of this, it's not that we're coming because Uncle Joe Biden has said come. That's not the answer. It's coming because things are so unbelievably desperate where they are. That what choice do they have? What opportunity do they have? There's one, maybe, if they can cross the border and then make an asylum claim. Now look, and I've turned down clients, many clients in the past. If they tell me, I say, why did you come from El Salvador? I wanted a better life. And I say, well, go find another lawyer. I wish you the best of luck. That's not why we allow people to come and become part of the American fabric. Because if we did that, half the world would come here. And so the people down at the southern border that are fleeing from all the depredations that they had in their home country, they still have to make a arguable claim of why they should be allowed here. It's not just that things are pretty shitty back home. That's not enough. That's not enough. Do you have an asylum claim? Do you have a real asylum claim? Do you have a family here? Oh, well, you have family here, but unfortunately, after you apply, you're going to have to wait 16 years to come. So they're not just coming, and we're just not letting them in because they're there. They have to prove under our law, which was constricted under Trump, right? Under our law, that they have a benefit and a right to be here. And if they do, listen, and if they do, then by God, we should enforce our laws. If they have a lawful right to be here, lawful right, or people that are already here to remain here, we should enforce them.
All right. Brad, I think Brad had a question.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate your insight. It's really good to
Sure.
hear from somebody that's working with this day in and day out. And as Alicia will know, I know a little bit about the immigration process because my wife is French, and we went through the whole immigration process when she came in. You know, through all the interviews and you know.
When was that? How long ago was that?
This was around 2000. So
Well, but it was more humane then. And even if you were coming now, even from France, because we know France is white, right?
Yeah.
That she would have a more difficult time. But anyway, I'm sorry, answer your question. Ask your question.
So I was wondering if what's going on at the southern border now is having any impact on the number of people that you're seeing. In other words, is it making them, you know, more afraid that maybe they want to make sure they have legal immigration, or maybe they think they could wait it out and maybe they'll get in, you know, for free, for lack of a better phrase? Is that having any impact at all on the people that are coming to you, the numbers of people or their attitude or anything?
If you're asking, I've got a very active immigration practice. I have, I think, almost 200 cases in deportation right now. So the question is, has anything down on the border impacted my practice? The answer is no. I don't see that, at least from my perspective.
Okay, it's you know, it's an interesting question for me whether it's having any impact at all on how people are viewing coming into the country.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that there are a lot of good people, ACLU and other NGOs down at the border trying to put kids together. And if we think about little ones, we think about kids, think about how desperate, think about this, how desperate a mom or dad has to be living in a Central American country to send their 9-year-old kid with a coyote up through Mexico and Guatemala and so forth to try and get him into the United States. How would do you have kids? Could you imagine taking your child and sending them 1,000 miles under the custody of bad guys for money? But the trade-off or the prayer that the family has is that maybe my kid can get into the United States and live a better life than he have down here. That's not an economic issue. That's a desperation issue, you know. And insofar as the kids are concerned, in my view, it's just a different issue. They don't have asylum cases, right? These are little kids. And are they here for economic reasons, or they're here for desperation reasons? What the hell are we going to do with them? If you ask me, do I have an answer? Absolutely not. My only hope is that we treat them kindly. We take care of them. We don't separate them from, if they came with their older brother or came with their parents. How can we separate them and not know there's still hundreds of kids? They don't even, you ask a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old, what country are you from? Or, what's your, spell your dad's name. What's your mother's date of birth or something? What's the likelihood that you're going to be able to link up a kid to his family? Or if they have no relation in the United States, which some of them do, and they get paroled into the United States because maybe they have an uncle or a big brother or something here in the United States. Okay, that's okay. We can deal with that. We are a country of 300 million people, 320 or 330, whatever the number is, and the numbers of people that we are talking about that actually come in and come across not insubstantial, but they're not breaking the bank. They are not so fast as for us to be threatened by the folks at the southern border, which, by the way, is just, we have just as many. Let me say this: we have just as many people that come to the United States on a visa, right? A work visa or a tourist visa or a school visa, and stay here and never go back. And depending upon which country they are and what the color of their skin is and what their accent is and so forth, they may live here for, for a good long time before somebody spots them. So that, if you want to close the border, we have to make sure that when somebody comes to as a tourist visa and wants to go to Disneyland and see the Grand Canyon and then go back, that they go back. And we're a big country. We can't track these people. So we hope that when they come, they spend money, they enjoy the American experience, and they go back. Sometimes they go back. Most of the time they go back, but a lot of time they don't. So that's a hole in the system as well. It's not just the people that are here without status. It's not just the people at the southern border. Anyway.
It'll be really interesting with the generation coming up with the those kids that are going through all this from South. Timmy, you had a question?
Yes, Dr. Leban, nice to meet you.
Mike, I'm Mike. When I Dr. Leban, I don't know why Will said that, so I'm Mike. I prefer that.
Right, but you deserve your title anyway. Do you have any idea how the United States determines how many legal immigrants to allow in, and what would that round figure number be?
Yeah, so we have, I have it here somewhere, but there's quotas. Okay, so there's two categories. There's an immigrant category and a non-immigrant category. So the non-immigrant is somebody that wants to come like a tourist or a student, or somebody who wants to explore investment and so forth. They come. Those are unlimited. But for the immigrant category, meaning that you have the intent to remain here, those are all quota controlled. Those are not open-ended at all. So for work authorization, I have it here somewhere. It may be 180,000. 180,000. You imagine that? Or for family, it's 226,000. We have a thing called a diversity visa, where it's basically a lottery, and that's 55,000. Or H-1Bs, where you come and where a lot of the Indian and Chinese software people and engineers and so forth come. Those are 60,000. So one of the things that when you want to discuss improving it, my sense is if you want the best and the brightest to come from all over the world, and they really do want to be here, I think, right? We just have this category, call it Category Mike. And if you qualify for Category Mike, you say to them, come over here. And if you do well here and study hard or work hard and don't rob any banks for the time that you're here, then we'll give you lawful status in a period of time. And you come because you're smart and you have something to contribute. And if you do all these things, you can plant your flag in the United States. Well, what am I? Am I a genius? Has nobody? I mean, there's a very simple on the upper level, on the serious, at least a bachelor's degree, or how do world-class athletes come, and how do movie stars and and musicians come? They're in that category up there. So if you're in that category, that's pretty much a walk in the park. But then there's the next category, and that's quota control, then that's no, the next one is like if you're a Nobel laureate. Oh, come on, we don't want the Nobel laureates. All right, they'll come. And then the category below that is like at least a bachelor's degree and some special stuff. And that's quota control too. There's a number attached to that. You tell me, Tim, why there's a number attached? Wouldn't we want to have every damn smart guy anywhere who's going to invent something or start a company or, you know, cure cancer or some damn thing here in the United States? And wouldn't we want them here than somewhere else? Of course we would. Why do we make it difficult to do that? You look at, you know, if you watch this on the COVID thing, when they were talking about, or the doctors that are on all the, except for Tony Fauci, he's a Bronx boy like me. He did a little better than I did, but if you look at some of the talking heads and the experts and the heads of the company, the Pfizer's and the Modernas and stuff, they all have names that are hard to pronounce, right? They're not Johnny Smith. These are all people that have an immigrant background that are doing wonderful work here, that are kicking ass and that are making America a better place. And for those people, we should say, pack up your computer and come to the United States. Did I answer? I'm on my soapbox. You guys got me riled up here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
You can't, let me say this, the last thing,
Mhm.
you can't do this work without passion. You can't do this work without believing in what you do, because these are people, this is every day, every single day, it's David and Goliath. You know, I'm David. If Goliath is this monster government and bureaucracies and ICE and unfriendly regulations and so forth. And every day, who stands between, you know, the disaster inflicted by the government potentially, right? Meaning deportation,
Mhm.
and these people. It's me. I have a picture right over here. It's of an astronaut, and he's untethered. He's out in space, and he's untethered from the space station. And I look at that every day, and I say, that's me. I'm out here all by myself, trying to do the best I can for the people as best I can. So, anyway,
All right.
what else can I proselytize to you nice people today?
I think, Mike, I think you have done a wonderful job. We're past noon, so
Okay, when do I get my box lunch? Is it waiting for me outside?
oh, we'll send you one.
Okay, all right. Be well. Love you guys. I'm delighted to do this, and you know, if I've shed any light on you know what is a pretty fundamental issue in America and should be, then you know, it's been great. I'm glad to do it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, thanks so much for being
Thank you.
here and sharing your perspective, and your passion for this certainly comes through.
Yes.
And you know, you're a great human being.
Oh, tell my wife.
She gets back. Hope she has a safe trip.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, guys.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye. Good to see you, Brother Tim. Good to see you, past District Governor Brad.
You too, Will. Good to see
Okay.
you too.
All right.
Okay.
Okey-dokey.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to see you, President Alicia.
Yeah, I'll see you in a minute. All right.
Yeah.